Welcome to A Rough Guide to Luke, episode 3. I hope you've been able to read along with us so far, and this week we've reached chapter 3. But first, the map of Luke we mentioned last time. Now, as a warning, this is not an Ordnance Survey standard map. It's more like one of those free maps that you get when you visit a garden. But hopefully it will give you a rough idea of Luke's route through the life of Jesus. So here it is. So chapters 1 and 2 are the beginning of the story and the early years of Jesus. Then chapter 3 through to 4:13 is a time of preparation for his public ministry. Now from here we can mention some actual physical geography as Luke begins to connect the story to the regions where Jesus worked. So chapter 4:14 through to 9:50, that all takes place around Galilee. Jesus begins to teach and performs many miracles. A theme for this section might be, who is this man? Then in chapter 9:51 through to 19:27, quite a big section, we find Jesus in the Judean and Perean areas. Perea is a region east of the Jordan. There's a lot more teaching, including most of the parables, and a possible theme would be a new way of living. 1928 to 24:53 all takes place in and around Jerusalem. The centre of attention is the crucifixion and resurrection, and we might summarise this as apparent defeat but absolute victory. So on to chapter 3. Jesus emerges from 18 years of obscurity, but the first person we meet is actually John from chapter 1. Now in its closing sentences, the Old Testament predicts a forerunner for the Messiah who would get the people ready for him, and this is John. And he starts teaching and baptizing people. Thus, he's known as John the Baptist. Now 3 quick pointers here. Firstly, baptism is a symbol of cleansing, a new start and of commitment. John's getting people ready to face the right way, so to speak, for when Jesus appears. He points to Jesus. Secondly, his message does have an edge. He's saying surface religiosity or even your ancestry just isn't enough. This is a whole life matter of the heart. And thirdly, just look at the kinds of people who are responding to his message. There are crowds of ordinary people. Then there are the tax collectors. These were despised collaborators with the Romans. Then there's the soldiers, the enforcers of the empire. And yet everyone is invited. Anyone can decide to turn to Jesus, and that's a really important theme in Luke's Gospel to which we will return. Next, let's pause over 2 unusual happenings for which last week's compass point is very helpful. First, Jesus is baptized, but why? He doesn't need to turn or change, and he is the coming one. So why is he baptized? The Bible claims that he is the only human to ever live 100% right before God. And not merely as a great example, but so as to get it right where humanity gets it wrong, in order to rescue us from the consequences of our failures. It's a tiny bit like someone successfully completing an obstacle course on your behalf after you fell down a hole. Jesus does it right. So if God sent John to baptize people, Jesus does it, because he's the human that gets everything right for us. But secondly, Jesus is again revealed as so much more than human. The heavens open, the Holy Spirit appears, God the Father declares Jesus is his Son. This is what Christians call the Trinity. One God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so the idea of the incarnation helps us again here. Jesus does something very human, but Jesus is also revealed as divine. So the very human baptism and the heavens opening hang together just fine when we understand it this way. And finally, this also works with the family tree that we find in verses 23 to 37. Now, if you want to know more about why that's here, you can watch our Advent calendar video for December the 7th. But here's something to notice on our journey now. Matthew also has a family tree, but it's slightly different. Is that a contradiction in the Bible? No, it was a common ancient practice to present your family tree selectively in different contexts. Even today, we might not mention all our relatives in certain places. Now, Matthew and Luke probably vary in part due to their audiences. Matthew had Jews primarily in mind, and he emphasises King David and Abraham. But Luke is writing to Theophilus, who is probably a well-to-do non-Jew, to whom that might not be so immediately meaningful. And so he goes right back and emphasises Adam, the father of all peoples, we could call him. And he also names him a son of God, because he came directly from God. There's no parentage. So we're back to the compass. This genealogy conveys that Jesus is the man for all peoples and the true Son of God who invites all who will to come. We'll leave it there, but here are a few questions that might help you to discover a few more things in your readings. Firstly, John the Baptist. How is he preparing people for the coming of Jesus? And in what ways do we see that he is a man of courage? Secondly, how does the symbolism of baptism strike you? Does it feel a bit weird? Or does the idea of a change of life and a fresh start with God, which is what it symbolises, does that appeal to you? And thirdly, read through chapter 3 with the compass in mind and make a note of every time those 2 points help make sense of what's going on. Thanks for being with us today, and hope to see you again next Friday.